risk management. We will then have a 15 to 20 minutes question answer session with you as an audience. And we have recorded your questions received through registrations. We will be majorly picking up the questions from the live audience in order to encourage participation. And please participate and be interactive as much as possible. You can please post your questions in your chat box on Zoom or on YouTube. Now let's begin the battle today by an introduction to our expert. Well, he's someone who is having 2 decades of experience in information and security, in cybersecurity, governance, risk, and compliance. He has done his MBA from Amrita School of Business. He's currently working as a director at ZACCO Cybersecurity Research Labs. And then he serves as a member of the board of Governors at National Institute of Technical Teachers Training and Research. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our expert for today's session, Mr. Pradeep Menon, with a hi in your chat box. Pradeep, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Mohammad. Really appreciate it.
Now let us take to the anchor. Anchor is a well-known person to all of us. He's a practicing chartered accountant, a seasoned trainer, author, public speaker, and a teacher by passion. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Pattabhi Ram with a big hi on your chat box on YouTube and Zoom. Pattabhi sir, welcome to this program. I hand over the control to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ibrahim. Can you just remove that screen of yours?
Sure.
Pradeep, please unmute yourself.
Yes, I did. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Good evening, Pradeep, and good evening to all of you who have turned up here today. Pradeep, before we dive deep into the subject, I just wanted to place on record that a majority of people who might have assembled today might be coming from the accounting background. And these are people who might have studied a bit of enterprise risk management in their accounting course. They are looking at job opportunities. They are wanting to look at various facets in different areas. Like Ibrahim had said, we did on forensic, we did on a global career. Tomorrow we are doing, I think, on equity research, then we are doing on BPO. So we're looking at various careers. And today we want to look at enterprise risk management as a career for budding young accountants, plus anybody else, could be a B school graduate as well. So that is the setup. So some practical ideas, etc., would be largely helpful. You will do the bulk of the talking. Maybe you can begin by telling our people very broadly, a broad spectrum of the ERM framework.
Sure, sir. Sir, it's a privilege and to be in talk with you, and thank you for being the anchor to this, and really appreciate the audience I'm getting with you as well. And I thank Mohammad and all others out here for giving this an opportunity to be in front of it with you and to share some of the perspective that I have gained along the years being in the industry. So really thankful for the opportunity given. And yeah, my background is mostly from a cybersecurity perspective. All my journey has been in the information security, cybersecurity, governance, risk, and compliance. But from a management background, I have a management background to it, and I worked with many of the financial and chartered accountants and others as well along the journey, and many colleagues and many people whom I have worked with. So gained some perspective working with some international organizations as well as domestic organizations as well. So I believe enterprise risk management as a discipline is not too very old, actually. When I really look at it from a risk management perspective, way back when we started in 95, 2000s, etc. Even the risk management as a discipline, slowly started emerging during that time. I think even the risk-based auditing and things were probably put forward by IAA and others post 1995 only, if I'm really, if I'm correct. And those kind of approaches to risk management coming off as a discipline, and risk management occupying, in organizations, a department by itself, office of the chief risk officer. This all happened in front of us in the last 20-25 years of span of career. So it's not while the techniques of risk management in various ways, people have been approaching it in many ways, from an operational risk perspective, people have been approaching in a different way. The credit risk and financial risk management perspective, it has been approached in a different way. But converging within the organization wanting to see it as a holistic management of risk for the organizations, etc. I see, in terms of it's only a 20-25 years max, and probably 15 years of, in terms of CROs reporting to the chief executive officers at the senior level of the chair. I see it coming very recently.
Pradeep, just to ask you at this point in time, you made a reference to the CRO. You also said that this is just about 15, 20 years of backdrop. The CRO today looks only at information security, audit, or is he also involved in testing on manufacturing, like what capacity should I build? Should I go in modular, or should I go total? Is he also responsible for legal testing on legal risks? Or is it largely, when we say somebody wants to make a career in ERM, is it largely information technology related?
I think what currently the CRO handles has got a limited portfolio, as you rightly mentioned. But eventually, I think the office of the CRO and the discipline should start, as a wish part of it, should start looking at handling much more multiple dimensions as well. So, including more of these operational risk aspects, which you mentioned in manufacturing side, or those kind of risk, operational risk in totality, how far they are going into, how far they have. So those kind of things are still in a growth phase, I would imagine. I haven't seen a all-encompassing enterprise risk management department. I think it's only maturing up, and I see in most organizations, it's they obviously have a financial risk which is being taken care of. They have some part of operational risk which we take care of. Cybersecurity used to fall in operational risk, but now it has moved to the strategic risk part of it as well for the organizational survival and things. So yeah, so in terms of when I see that these are the major market risks, credit risk, operational risk. These are the major three portfolios which I'm seeing many organizations handling at the CRO level office.
Just to ask you a couple of questions that they are very current. There's a lot of talk about business continuity planning. There is so much of noise that is created. I just want to ask a question. I'm not being flippant. Where does this COVID-19 fall in this broad spectrum of risk? Well, I don't think I would be wrong if I say that nobody planned for that.
Yeah, it's it's a very interesting question, isn't it? Because how we have so many risk management practices coming up, and many of the times it has thrown us out of the current working zone, etc., and suddenly thrust us a situation. So when I look at this, the business continuity scenario is essentially starting from an operational risk perspective and throwing us out into a strategic perspective, where the question of the survival of the organizations are also questioned in many ways because of this. Having said that, I see this risk as one of those low frequency, high impact risks. So low frequency, high impact risk, like I don't think in my career I have come across this pandemic risk before. This is the first time I'm experiencing it. So spanning this almost this 25 years, I don't know, Pattabhi sir, in terms of what you have come through, and whether you have seen it.
I think it must be 100 years, because I guess the Spanish flu must have been the last one that must have locked up people 1917, or maybe the World War 1940, 39, 44. Anyway,
at least, yeah. So it's at least two generations before, right? I'll think approximately. So, and so we are seeing this low frequency but very high impact ones. Like it's something like the plane flying into the trade towers and then bringing it out. So you don't buy control measures in fortifying your building with major controls so that the planes doesn't fly in or something. But we haven't really been prepared for a low frequency event, and this has not been in the radar of the enterprise risk managers, I guess. And largely, these kind of events are usually should be the measure as a best practices. These events are usually should be transferred to an insurance company,
Exactly.
rather than managing it by yourself within the organization, I guess.
Because you said about insurance company, just for the sake of the audience, I believe the only guys in the world was the All England Championship, Wimbledon, which had
Yeah.
insured themselves for the eventuality of a game not happening. And I think each time when they paid the premium, people must have laughed. And I think today they have collected tons and tons of money.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. Very good example.
Pradeep, coming down to more specifics, because there would be people here who would want to make a career. Um, do you think somebody should have? I'm still not very clear on ERM, or if you are saying that ERM is largely information security. What should a young guy who's fresh out of the institute or fresh out of engineering, what should he or she do to get into this role?
Yeah, so I mean, at the office of the ERM, I am yet to see in the global level any information security or a cyber security person occupying the chair of CRO, actually. So they are not well trusted to handle the entire spectrum of, the enterprise risk management.
How is it in your company?
We don't means in our organizations, we are more of a consulting and intellectual property protection company. So we have the office of the chief cybersecurity officer, but we are yet to have a chief risk officer, in our vertical actually.
All right. You please tell to our people whichever is the greatest area of ERM, one of the most important areas in your perspective. Uh, where would a fresher, fresh out of an engineering college or a CA course fit in?
Yeah, so I think it's more from a financial risk management. People are having, whether it's from the institute or from CFA and all those people. I see many of them with those qualifications ultimately reaching the CRO's chair rather than from a, enterprise cybersecurity side, because they seem to be more about the controls, about the idea of risk is much more inculcated through the training of financial risk management rather than with the operational risk management from a cybersecurity side, which is still regarded as something on the technology side of the spectrum. So I think for enterprise risk management discipline, I don't think there is any entry-level career, in terms of enterprise risk management. So this enterprise risk management has to be approached through any of these areas of a credit risk, market risk, or operational risk, or any of other portfolio risk and hedging risk, trading, a lot of these ways in which people come into enterprise risk management. But the journey ultimately, I think, will take them through an enterprise risk management office or get in there at some point of time after they go through the entire business spectrum, see the vertical side, the business side of it, etc., get deeper knowledge. And then only I think they get a chance to view the whole umbrella or a spectrum of enterprise risk management. I think, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm yet to see some entry-level opportunities in enterprise risk management, apart from some back office work they get from abroad or something on an enterprise risk management. But an entry-level job as a real specialist in that, I have not seen.
All right. So if I've understood this right, just correct me if I'm wrong. I'll take an example from the world of accounting and finance. A guy might work in payable, might work in receivable, might work in accounting, might work in corporate finance, might work in taxation, multiple different areas he works. And then he graduates to become an overseer and a CFO. Is this something similar that he works in different areas of risk and then graduates to get into ERM as one of the spectrums?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, this is the case. I would clearly, I would clearly assume so. But what maybe one difference is, since this is not a journey in terms of education or something. So yeah, I have seen many credit risk managers becoming CRO, and then they get a perspective of how operational risk
I agree.
handle. And so yeah, so this is the
I think that's also, I could be wrong, but that's also how I think traditionally manufacturing companies work. You became a CEO and then you started understanding like how R&D works or how different functions work. Okay. I just wanted to ask you one very important thing. What would you think are the three most important skills that somebody needs to work here?
yeah. So, sir, I think in terms of enterprise risk management is quite a broad subject. The way of treating enterprise risk, risks in multiple disciplines are in the way you treat it very differently. If you take the market risk part of it or a market side hedging and things, there's a lot of quant involved. There's a lot of analytical skills that is involved, modeling and things, a lot of things involved. In terms of credit risk also, I think there is in terms of behavioral scoring, there is many of those things involved, which in the credit risk and other side of it. When it comes to the operational risk side from a business continuity management or a cyber security perspective, still things are more qualitative in nature. And in terms of approaches are still modeled not around any quantitative ways. So in a broader spectrum of enterprise risk management, I think you need to have an excellent analytical skills in terms of whatever usually the people from institute comes with. An idea about the control and logical thinking part of it, which logical reasoning skills is extremely important. And also from an qualitative aspects of it, when they come from an operational risk side, is extremely important as well. And many of these skills are now currently required to write very good reports, present before the top management, because you have to articulate the risk that you have gathered. And because risk is something which is not happening currently. So if somebody were to tell the senior management that there could be a pandemic and we should invest so much in insurance, could not have been very effective at that point of time, like 1 year before. But so how to present those scenarios and the ability to write report, present, articulate the risk scenarios with examples, with this one is also very important. So I would imagine analytical skills, logical reasoning skills, presentation, verbal and written skills will be very important.
Ibrahim, you want to make some observations? I think you're on mute.
There is a good going. We have been receiving questions from the audience. I hope they are enjoying the conversation between the anchor and the expert. I would like to just make an announcement of our upcoming webinars as well. This is the third webinar, which is how about a career in enterprise risk management. We have an upcoming webinar tomorrow on how about a career in equity research. That will be at 5 p.m. And again, day after tomorrow on how about a career in business process outsourcing. Both these webinars will be again in discussion with our experts who are having tremendous industry experience, and definitely you'll be getting good insights on the introduction, scope, skills, education, paycheck, and the road ahead. So looking forward for your participation and presence, and also your questions in order to clarify your doubts. Over to you, sir. You are on mute, sir.
You are mute, yeah.
Pradeep, we'll take a few questions from my end, and then we will have the audience questions that Ibrahim was talking about. The audience, I would request them to post in more questions. Would you like to tell our people what exactly is this business of risk? The four-lettered word means a lot.
Yes, sir. Actually, this is a bread and butter for us. In a way that risk, as I never thought, this four-letter word would make a career for me and make a career for numerous people, in this area. So even when I see the balanced scorecard, management methodology and others, so when it comes to the people who have founded it, and they were asked, like they said, we would like to have after 10 years or something. They said we would have actually included a risk as one of the dimensions itself, along with business, customer, internal process, etc. So risk management has become a very important aspect in today's business, and it is rightfully taking its place. But I think it's an emerging place. The key challenge is what I see is there are not too many people who are specialized in this area, and there's a lot of resource requirement and skills requirement in this area as well. And even in terms of risk, I think we are yet as a discipline, we are yet to get into a very precise quantitative modeling or a precise nature of measuring risk, precise nature of forecasting risk, managing risk, etc. Still remains in many gray areas and in many areas of discipline. So I would imagine that in coming years, we will see with artificial intelligence and various other machine learning methodology coming in, I think we will see some more maturing of this risk management as a discipline. And risk management already has got board level seats nowadays. So risk committees at the board level where CROs are represented in that level, etc. So, and many of the times mandated at US and other places after the Sarbanes-Oxley and other requirements. So risk management as a discipline is evolving. It's a good place to be while it's evolving, because it gives you an exponential career growth when it is evolving rather than when it has stabilized. So,
you would keeping the finance guys in mind, would you suggest that they should what qualification that they should pick additionally before you think they can be suitable here, and what kind of work experience or what kind of experience they should pick up before they think that yes, I can make a mark in this career?
yes, sir. So I have seen some, risk management certifications, etc. Like from the Global Association of Risk Professionals, they have a certification for, I think the risk management RMP or something, and then PRMIA, they have a PRM Professional Risk Manager certification. But these are extremely sophisticated and highly comprehensive professional certifications. So at an entry level, if you try it, I'm not saying that you should not try it, but entry level, you try it, it might be too much to consume in a way that you can try it, because it's extremely vast and not probably for an entry level person to really try their hand out. So the way to the enterprise risk management is through the various means of risk management that you already have in various ways. Sometimes, currently I see management courses coming up in risk management. The MBAs appearing in risk management. I see risk management as separate certifications being offered through the various MOOC platforms and others like Coursera and edX. You can see some enterprise risk management courses which you can pick up and do it, etc. So if you see that if you are from a financial discipline, I would suggest that pick and choose some areas of external certifications, etc., what you get, and then try to anchor in there till we have any specific discipline. I don't know whether CAI offers any risk management certification
I
like
think
or something.
globally, one of the areas where finance guys look for is the FRM program.
Yeah, the GARP FRM. Yeah.
GARP FRM program.
Yeah.
That's where I think our community of accountants and finance guys can quickly pick up.
But FRM also, I think it's quite an extensive and comprehensive.
Yeah, it's extensive. Even the best of guys, they struggle. It is really one of those very, very thorough exams. So you are right in a sense that it can't be the starting thing. They work in a place, pick up more practical insight, and then take the exam. I think you have a point there. I want you to tell our viewers as to what kind of companies recruit people. Where can they tomorrow after they pass the exam, knock the door, send in their resume and say, look, I'm available. Can you take me in?
Yeah. So I think there are many opportunities for, risk management offering. So one of the, some key sectors that comes to my mind in risk management, of course, the BFSI sectors require, they have their risk management departments and risk management CRO offices, etc., which is there. Then there is a verticals which are exposed to a lot of market risk, like an oil and gas, and others also have risk management departments and things established as well. So those companies are also an opportunity for them if they want to be in an operational area. Uh, in another area, what they could possibly look at to be in the consulting side of risk management, within organizations like the Big Fives or the consulting companies like the likes of McKinsey's, the BCGs, and Boston Consulting Groups, and all those things can be from a consulting point of view, so that you get exposure to multiple verticals, very quick,
Quickly.
yeah, very good learning environment, very quick. You can look at multiple best sectors rather than being occupied with one sector, and you could learn on it. And a third one I see is many of the large organizations abroad has put up their back office work into India. So, and they have shifted their, risk management activities also. The back office work of risk management also has been shifted to India. So these kind of larger, whether it's a banking financial organization or large trading companies, etc., have their cons and risk management people and all sitting back in India. So that's also another opportunity that probably a entry level opportunity that could be tried out, and then you get exposed to it, and then take your level through operations, and then probably through a consulting background, wherein which when you have a sufficient amount of skill. So that could be a career path, but need not be that also.
Wonderful. Before I ask Pradeep my last question, and thereafter we pick up the questions that the audience have posted or would want to post, I'll very quickly summarize what Pradeep has been telling. He's been largely telling that while ERM is an evolving profession, it's been there only for the last 20, 25 years, being recognized as a, what should I say, a broad spectrum. Until then, they've all been narrow spectrums. Operational has been separate, finance has been separate, legal has been separate, strategy has been separate. Today, there is an increasing view that these must be consolidated and come under one head. He also spoke about this fact about events that have extremely low frequency but huge impact. And the alternative for that is not great planning, but to just take insurance. What would be the cost of that insurance is a call that individuals have to take. In terms of skills, I think he named three, and I think those sit very squarely with that of chartered accountants. One is analytical skills, two is skills of logic, and the third and most important skill on which I think quite a number of us will possibly would want to improve is about report writing skills. In terms of the workplace, he said there are opportunities in consulting companies, there are opportunities in the big fours, there are also opportunities in back offices that some of the large companies of the world set up. He said one of the key areas in enterprise risk management is obviously information security, internet security, etc. I'll now ask Pradeep the last question, and then there are some interesting questions that the audience have put forth. Pradeep, most important thing, ultimately, most guys want to know how much can they earn.
Yeah, so very difficult question to answer as well, because
okay, how much will your company offer? Any other question?
Yes, sir. So I will probably not open up the payroll, but I will tell that what I have seen is the entry level. If somebody from an institute after passing their CA, they take two people take two career paths. One goes into the normal, audit and accounting career path, and another person takes up a job in enterprise risk management or a financial risk management side. The entry level, they might be, having the same salaries. There might not be too much difference in terms of, because you have got an experience, you've done a couple of certifications on risk management, the entry level might be the same. But in 3 years term, I think the guy who has gone into the enterprise risk management will be at least earning 3 times more than the person who would be going into the traditional styles. There's a lot of assumption that I have pulled in here, but I'm saying that because this is a very exponential emerging field, and lack of professionals who are there in this demand is very high. So by the time they get their role in the industry and get all the knowledge in 3 years, they are very much in demand, and their salary packages will be at least minimum 3 times more than the person who chose.
That's very interesting. I think the message that he is throwing out is that get into the journey before the crowd comes in. Thank you very much, Pradeep. Thank you very much, audience. I think Ibrahim will now consolidate the questions from the audience, and Pradeep will answer them. Go ahead, Ibrahim.
Thank you, Pradeep, and thank you, Pattabhi, sir, for making this conversation very lively. Before I dive into the question answer session, I would like to make an announcement on our upcoming book, Beyond 2020-25 Happening Careers in Accounting and Finance. Well, this is a work of 8 budding chartered accountant professionals into industry. This is by Pattabhi Ram, and this professionals have come together on mission. The mission was to research the top happening careers in accounting and finance. Then they basically make industry experts understand what exactly happens in each career. Then they have a analysis experts from the various sources. And now they plan to release the book.
Ibrahim,
They plan to release this book. Yeah.
I think we were not able to hear for some time when you started.
Sure. Is my voice audible now? Is it audible and clear now?
Now it's okay. Please go ahead.
Sure. Sorry for the inconvenience caused. Before diving into the question answer session, I would like to make an announcement on our upcoming book, Beyond 2020-25 Happening Careers in Accounts. This book is a work of 8 chartered accountant professionals led by Pattabhi Ram. They have basically come together to, on a mission to research the top 25 happening careers. Then they met with industry experts, and now the book is planned to release in a month or so. There is an audio podcast planned, an ebook, and a printed version through our publishers, Notion Press. So stay tuned to our social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube to know more about the updates on this book. So let us now have the question answer session. The first question comes from Balaji. He is asking, in the spectrum of GRC, what is the role of a finance professional? What is the qualification or certification required for the same?
GRC has been coined the governance, risk and compliance has been coined. The term has come. It's come probably 2005, 2007 onwards. The term has entered into the industry. So this is it's a very interesting, because there's a lot of opportunities when it comes to the GRC, but GRC is a term mostly used by the technology professionals, and when it comes to information security, cyber security part of it, because governance as such, which was witnessed in financial governance and other parts of the thing. So what we saw with some fall of certain companies, etc., actually prompted this coining this term, and then having the entire GRC spectrum to emerge. So this is where the GRC spectrum has emerged. So financial professionals has got a very important role, as I was telling, likewise in enterprise risk management, because who understands business better than more people, more of my colleagues who comes from my stable of technology side and cyber security side, to understand the governance, understand the risk and the controls that go in with it, the effectiveness of the controls, and the reward and opportunities the control provides, etc., are mostly very limited in scope of. We only see losses, we don't see the opportunities that comes with risk. So I think finance professionals are very well suited for the GRC consulting side of it, and being a GRC functional consultants, but not in the GRC technology side. So I think the GRC technology side is more suited to be with the cybersecurity people in terms of creation, etc. But with the functional consulting, like how in an ERP, the chartered accountants have been really found to be very good functional consultants when they go for doing the business consultancy side, etc. Likewise, in a GRC consulting roles, I think the financial professionals can make a very good career and can make a very good mark.
Sure, Pradeep. In continuation with that, there is a second question from Aruna.
Okay.
Is there good scope for financial risk professionals in India?
Yeah, I would imagine it would be, but my exposure to the Indian market is not very high. So probably Pattabhi Ram sir would be able to tell in terms of the from an Indian perspective, sir, because exposure has been not very high in terms of see what is the opportunity.
Pradeep, would you first talk about the global part?
Yeah, sure. So global part, I see that there's quite a lot of opportunities in the enterprise risk management side. As I mentioned in my earlier this one as well, there's basically it has been driven by some if you ask me, like 2-3 drivers for enterprise risk management. One is, of course, the major one is the legal and regulatory driver. So the globally over from the SEC of the United States to the GDPR coming from the stable from Europe, and many of these regulations over period of time has actually started pushing the enterprise risk management. The organization has been pushed to actually make this enterprise risk management practice, and that legal and regulatory driver has been very much tighter. And I think there's a lot of bills pending in Indian Parliament as well. If it becomes law, then we will see a lot of risk management and privacy and other activities happening here as well. And the second part of the things what I have seen in the risk is obviously the incidents themselves. So now I'm sure if you ask many of the CEOs in large enterprise organizations, if you run a survey asking them, should you have a risk management department? The answer would be, obviously, we should have a risk management. We should have seen it. We should have invested in insurance. We should have hedged ourselves into various things, etc. So the incidents also drives enterprise risk management. So one of the driver is legal and regulatory. The second is the incidents. And the third one is actually technology and business models. So the various technology and business models are also opening up opportunities in a way that the enterprise risk has to be handled differently. Like, for instance, Airbnb model, which was not there previously in terms of accommodation and others, they have an insurance of $1 billion, which they have taken so as to give, confidence to the customers that, their stay and everything is secure and they will be compensated, etc. So the new business models, like probably if I can say Ola, Uber, the technology-driven business models, the Bitcoins, and those are also one of the drivers where risk management has to be actively managed and controlled. So these are the three key drivers, and I think globally these forces are acting pretty strong, and I think maybe in India also, I'm sure this would be some of them.
I think you're right. I think you're right. India, obviously being one of the largest markets, would automatically have to follow what happens globally. Privacy laws will apply to our country as well. There is no two opinion that it will apply to Indian corporates as well. And like you rightly said, my only point about thing is that we really do not know what will be the next risk. Like it is often said in the Mayan mythology, you always prepare yourself for a risk that has happened, but the risk that will come up can be completely new. Mayan mythology talks about how people, I don't remember the sequence, but once they were hit out by floods, so they prepared themselves for flood, but next time it was fire which killed them. So next they prepared for fire and for flood. The third time it was destroyed by earthquake. So I don't want to paint a doomsday scenario, but the point is that many of the you, like Pradeep said, you prepare for the event, you just do not know what could be the new event. So all the more the reason why somebody has to look for it, and all the more the reason why Indian companies would also look for risk management professionals, entire enterprise. And if someone was specifically talking about financial risk, obviously, yes, that's one of the most important risks that people understand today.
Okay, good. Nice. We'll continue the question answer session with one question coming from Sanjeev Sawant. He says that in cybersecurity, we have frameworks like ISO 27001 and NIS cybersecurity framework. In ERM, we have COSO ERM framework. is asking, is there any other framework which we have to follow?
I think the major frameworks has been listed out in terms of largely the framework of COSO is highly regarded. 2017 framework is highly regarded as an enterprise risk management framework to, if we want to really have a framework there. ISO 27001 gives a framework for information security management system 2015, and NIST also gives for cyber security management, response and management part of it. But apart from that, there are various other risk management techniques and risk management. It depends on the discipline. This is more of a management part of it. But if you want to really do real risk management, whether you decide whether to give credits to a certain people or not, or have a develop a product with a certain credit rating, or how do you do that, or what do you do for a value at risk in market risk, etc. So these are the things which is other things that you need to have your hands-on expertise as well. So before getting into the management system gives you a broad outlook, but if you have to really hands-on on risk management, then you need to get into this as well. So part of it. So that would be, there are multiple various models and various different models in financial risk management, etc. Which that, as Pattabhi Ram sir said, in terms of the certifications, like whether PRM or other certifications which they give. So those certifications have various models which can be learned as well. So don't limit yourself to this model. These models gives you an overall view of things, but it has really not made your hands dirty. So.
On to our next question, Pradeep. Karthi has asked whether ERM can be implemented on MSME clients, which is micro, small, medium enterprise clients.
Yeah, I think yes, it can be. So the key thing is it has to be, and probably it's already there, but it's only in the mind of the chairman or the directors or anybody else who is handling. Because we should not, the key challenge is there not to over-engineer things and not to make it so complicated, and we are not managing a risk which is not commensurate to the financial gain that they are making. So we should manage risk only to the extent, in a way that what their exposure is and what their value that they are creating. And obviously the risk management should only be a part of, it should be a prudent part wherein which it is commensurate what you are trying to protect. So it has to be, so that will be a very challenging task. And I think, some models like that will be very interesting if it emerges, and if we could see some of those models coming in wherein which they can have a very cost-effective risk management program for MSMEs, will be very interesting to see if some models emerge.
Pradeep, are you therefore saying that the cost of putting in place a risk management model for MSMEs is very high?
Yeah, in a way, what is happening? Yeah, correct. Because I probably am saying a little bit of that, because the MSMEs are in many ways in our supply chain, and the ecosystem has been integrated with the markets, the larger global markets, and to the financial markets, to the large enterprises. So, even in our foundries in Coimbatore are integrated with the international markets, etc. So their exposure has been really high into the various risk management ways, but they don't have the sophistication and wherewithal to model it and manage it at their level. And how much they should spend is also in this risk management, when they're making only so much of revenues, is also a constraint currently what they have.
Would I be right in saying that a consulting outfit like yours comes out with some model, or I don't know, I guess a model which will help MSMEs to manage, then that would be a huge opportunity for you?
Yes, but the key challenge again in MSME is one model which I have seen with the Danish banks. Some of this, like our corporate, cooperative banks, etc. What they did was they pooled into a consortium in terms of when it comes to credit risk, etc. And then they bought the data together and ran the models rather than they owned a company together and then had them manage the risk. So that way the investment was, well taken. So
I can see some parallels. For example, if I've understood you right, some of the parallels can be like in agriculture, there are people who have small parcels of land. They group together, work together. They therefore bring in modernization. It becomes easy. Or the second example, correct me if I am wrong, is where small and medium accounting firms and audit firms by themselves can't afford AI to be used in their audits. But if they pool their resources and license it from some place,
yeah.
somebody creates a large one, these guys license from there, that would be fine. Is that broadly okay?
Yes, sir, absolutely. That's what I meant. Yeah. So
Ibrahim, would you like to make some closing observations?
Yes, sir. Definitely. Shall we take one or two more questions
Yeah, yeah,
if the time
that's
permits,
your
or
choice.
yeah,
Absolutely.
um, definitely. There is a question from Anand Kundargi. He asked, "What are the common risks for all businesses, and how to overcome them?"
yeah, so the risk needs to be looked up in perspective, right? So what I would say is, probably if I can share my screen, just give me a minute. Uh, so, are you able to see my screen?
We are able to see your screen.
Able to see the screen? Yeah. Okay. So what the risk management is, some key principles are the day you thought about having a vision, strategy, and entered into a business, you already have created risk. So the vision starts with the superlatives: where, what, when, etc. So you invited geopolitical risk, you have invited legal risk, you have got exposed to the market risk. So all those things that what you started the organization, you already got exposed to those risks. And how do you manage this risk is through the various policies and process that you put in place. Your credit risk policies, your cybersecurity policies, your market risk policies, all those things determine how you manage this risk to a certain limitations, etc. And so the policies and processes are the risk containment part of it. So to probably broadly mention that these are the risk creation, and these are, so this risk is always there in any organizations, or even individually we carry risk. So in one of the ways that we don't really manage risk in a commonsensical approach is, we don't know what we are out eating while we are in the hotels or something, in terms of not managing the risk, but we manage our money better, though our life is much more valuable to us than the money that what we create, right? So so those are the exposure of the risk that we individually and organizationally do it. And so the way we look at risk in an organizational context is that the vision and strategy drives the risk, gets controlled by the policies, wherein which there is a review and say that this is the risk appetite, and then gets it board approved, and then at the organizational level you approve those policies, and then it gets implemented as process and gets implemented in the organization. But the process itself has a risk that whatever you developed or whatever you thought you would do it will not be implemented. So you need to do your checks and balances, and the checks and balances again goes back into the senior management review or a board approval or ratification, and then they try to make their changes to their strategies, etc., which again gets driven back into the spectrum of things. So this is the way that in an organizational context of enterprise risk, if I see it, will drive into. And we need to collect the data across this cycle and see that where are the checkpoints, what are the control points in which we are having the data, how we can manage risk, etc. It flows through the organization. So depending upon various verticals of organization you are into, you are exposed to many different kind of risks. So a company which is there in 170 offices carries much more geopolitical risk than an organization which is only there in one or two countries. So an organization which is very technology centric, like a Google or somebody else, carries a huge operational technology risk rather than an organization which is more into trading or any of those, in terms of goods trading or any of those kind of stuff. So it's very difficult to say that this is essentially the one, but you have obviously the strategic risk, the operational risk, the financial risk, you have the legal risk, legal and regulatory risk. These are 4 or 5 of them I can broadly list out, which I could imagine. Yeah.
Thank you, Pradeep. This conversation was very informative and enriching to the audience. I'm sure that audience would now be excited to think about a career in enterprise risk management, as they have received many insights into, about the scope, skills, paycheck, skills required, and then the road ahead. Um, Pradeep, thank you from all the audience, from Anchor and from the team of Beyond 2020 and Prime Academy for being our expert speaker for the day. We look forward for more and more sessions with you. Thank you, Pradeep. And we would also like to thank, would also like to thank Pattabhi sir, who has been a wonderful anchor in terms of, keeping the engagement lively with his intuitive questions from the audience. And once again, thank you for the audience for being, very lively and interactive. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you
Pradeep.
very much, Mohammad, and thank you, Pattabhi sir, for your time. And it was really very interesting to speak and nice to hear from your insights as well. So I have probably learned more than what I have spoken in the interaction. So thank you very much. Your experience has also rubbed off on me in terms of the knowledge. So thank you. Really appreciate for the opportunity provided. And thank you, Ibrahim, Kamaluddin, and others who has set this up, and Excel Academy for this as well. Really appreciate it. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mohammed, we have concluded.
Yeah, Pradeep. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you.